An economics application, consumer surplus and producer surplus. Our goal today is, given demand and supply functions, find the consumer surplus and producer surplus at the equilibrium point. The consumer's demand curve, P equals D of X, gives the price per unit that the consumer is willing to pay for X units. It is usually a decreasing function. Utility is a function often considered in economics. When a consumer receives X units of a product, a certain amount of pleasure, or utility U, is derived. Consumer surplus is the utility received by for which there is no payment for. Graphically, consumer surplus is the area of the orange region on the graph below. So what we have here is a demand curve as a decreasing function. P is the equilibrium point, so this is the price the market is charging, and the consumer surplus is this orange region here. You can kind of think of consumer surplus something like this. Let's say you want to go buy a new cell phone or a new iPod, and you're willing to pay $100 for it, but the market is only charging $50. You think you're getting a smoking deal, and you're getting about $50 worth of pleasure from purchasing it for $50 rather than $100. Therefore, what you're feeling is what you could consider a consumer surplus. If you consider the point QP, the blue region represents the amount paid for X units, and again, the orange region is your consumer surplus. So in order to find the orange region, what we have to do is take the integral of the demand function from 0 to Q, and then subtract out the area of this rectangle, which would be Q times P. Now, the producer surplus curve, P equals S of X, gives the price per unit that the seller is willing to accept when supplying X units. It is usually an increasing function. The benefit a producer receives when supplying more units at a price that is higher than a price at which fewer units will be supplied is called producer surplus. Graphically, the green area below represents the producer surplus. So the supply curve here is increasing. As price increases, more and more producers are willing to supply the product. Let's suppose that a producer is willing to supply a product to market for $40, but the market price is actually $50. Then they are receiving $10 worth of producer surplus. If you consider the point QP, the yellow region is the total cost per person. The green region is the producer surplus, or the surplus over cost. It is a contribution to profit. The area of the yellow and green regions represent the total receipts. So in order to find the area of this green region, we have to take the area of the entire rectangle, Q times P, and subtract out the area under the curve in yellow. The equilibrium point, X comma P, is the point at which the supply and demand curves intersect. It is at that point at which sellers and buyers come together and purchases and sales actually occur. So this graph kind of combines both the graphics of the consumer surplus and the producer surplus. Often it's a good idea to graph both the demand curve and the supply curve to see their relationship. To find the equilibrium point, we need to set the supply and demand functions equal to each other and solve for X. To find the price P, we need to substitute X into either the supply or demand functions, since we are finding the point of intersection. Let's go ahead and take a look at an example. D of X is the price that consumers are willing to pay for X units of an item. S of X is the price that producers are willing to accept for X units. Find the equilibrium point. So to start this off, we know the equilibrium point occurs when the supply function is equal to the demand function. So in order to find that point of equilibrium, we have to set x minus 4 squared equal to x squared plus 2x plus 6. So let's go ahead and expand this. And solve for x. This works out pretty well for us because the x squared terms would simplify out. Solving this for x now, maybe I would subtract 2x on both sides. And then I'm also going to subtract 16 at the same time. So what we'd have here on the left, negative 10x is equal to, looks like negative 10. Therefore, x is equal to 1. Remember, the equilibrium point consists of two coordinates. The quantity, x, and then the price. Now, in order to find the price, we need to substitute x equals 1 into one of these functions here. I'll go ahead and do it mentally here. 1 minus 4 would be negative 3 squared, would give us 9. So $9. Remember that each of these functions we could set equal to p. Okay, so our equilibrium point is the point 1, 9. What we want to do now is find the consumer surplus at the equilibrium point. So again, our equilibrium point is the quantity of 1 and a price of $9. Now we don't know the units of x. One item seems obviously very low. One could be in the hundreds or thousands or millions as far as we know. But we'll go ahead and just use the value of 1 that we found. Find the consumer surplus at the equilibrium point. So here's our formula for consumer surplus. Let's go ahead and fill in the information. We're going to integrate from 0 to 1 of the demand function, which was x minus 4 squared from the previous screen. And then we're going to subtract out the area of that rectangle, q times p, which of course is going to be 1 times 9. Okay, in order to integrate this, we are going to have to expand this. Now we'll integrate. And we evaluate this at 0 and 1, and then subtract 9. To save a little bit of time, I've already done this, and we're going to get $3.33. Let's verify this on our graphing calculators. Okay, so remember, if you hit Math and then option 9, Function Integration, we can integrate x minus 4 squared with respect to x from 0 to 1, and then subtract 9, which verifies our answer. So the consumer is getting $3.33 worth of utility by purchasing the item at $9. And now we'll take a look at it from the producer's side. We want to find the producer's surplus at this equilibrium point. So we have a formula QP minus the integral of the supply function from 0 to Q. So let's go ahead and do that. Our producer's surplus is going to be equal to 1 times 9 minus the integral again from 0 to 1 of our supply function, which was given on the previous screen as x squared plus 2x plus 6. Okay, let's show one more step and then we'll verify it with the graphing calculator. So of course 1 times 9 is 9 minus, now we subtract this entire integral, so now we need to find the indefinite integral and then evaluate it at 1 and 0. I'm not going to take the time to simplify this and do the substitution. I did this ahead of time and it came out into $1.67. However, let's go ahead and verify that on the graphing calculator as well. Okay, so we'd have 9 minus, remember it was Math option 9, and then we can go ahead and type in our integrand. With respect to x from 0 to 1, and again that verifies our solution. Remember, this is the utility that's received to the producer that is a contribution to profit. I hope that helps explain a little bit about consumer surplus, producer surplus, and what it all means. Thank you for tuning in and have a good day.